Well, guys, it is finally officially over. The Jack Eichel saga has ended, and I am never buying another hockey jersey again. Hey everyone, my name is Melody. Thank you for clicking on this video. And what a past few months it was, huh? So bright and early this morning, it was announced that Jack Eichel has finally, after all this time, after all this drama, has finally been traded to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for Alex Tuch, Peyton Krebs, a top 10 protected 2022 first round pick, and a second round pick in exchange for Jack Eichel and a third, because that third was so important for some reason. I can't believe it's finally over. I've been waiting for this day for so long, and now it's finally here. It's kind of hard to process. So a lot of you may be wondering, Melody, how are you feeling? Honestly, a lot of things. First of all, I'm relieved. I'm relieved that it's finally over. There was just so much surrounding this. This has been going on for so long. Been so much unnecessary, irritating drama, and for it to finally be over and I have to never think about it again, I'm relieved. I'm feeling kind of annoyed that it took this long, you know? I mean, and especially with the return, it's not like the return was mind-blowingly good, right? So for it to have taken this long, I'm feeling okay about the return. It's not great. It's not like, whoa, I can't believe we got that, but it's not awful. You know, it's given the circumstances, it's fine, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But I think more than anything, I'm kind of feeling sad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling a little sad. Just empty, I guess. I don't know. I think it's sad that we're losing a talent like Jack Eichel. I think it's sad, you know, given how much we've all become fans of him over the past 6 years, to see him go like this in this kind of way. It hurts to think about how excited we were to get him, for it to really result in nothing over the years. I don't know, this whole situation sucked. I've talked about this. It sucked. As a Sabres fan, it hasn't been fun to go through this, to listen to the media talk so poorly about the Sabres organization, to listen to everyone kind of chime in, and I don't know. It's sad because I remember very vividly the year that we were tanking for McDavid and Eichel, and how much we went through just dealing with that to get that guarantee to finish in last place. Here's a picture of me at a game near the end of that season. I look miserable, and that was because the Sabres were winning at this point of the game against the eventual Stanley Cup champion Blackhawks. The Blackhawks ended up winning that game, thankfully. I can still remember so vividly that whole game against Columbus at the end when we clinched last place. Every moment of that game, I can rewatch and remember exactly how I was feeling at those moments. It was so stressful, but I thought, it's okay, it'll all be worth it when we get that prize draft pick. So for it to come to this, just over 6 years later, after drafting him, there's a tweet actually that I really thought was funny. It said, if someone told me 6 years ago that the Sabres would end up trading Jack Eichel to the Golden Knights, I would have said, who the f*** are the Golden Knights? That is actually really funny. It's amazing how much has happened over these past 6 years. So just looking at this at face value, for just looking at it for what it is, I think long term, no doubt, this is an easy no-brainer win for Vegas. Assuming Jack comes back healthy and plays the way he played before his injury, I mean, to me, there's no doubt that Vegas, what they gave up was really not a lot for a player of his caliber. Now, obviously, the injury aspect of it is kind of what reduces trade value to this point. But no doubt in my mind, he is just a game changer. He's probably one of the best players I've ever seen wear a Sabres jersey, probably the best. I can't remember anyone better than him. They always say that if you get the best player in the trade, you won the trade. Vegas is obviously going to have to show a little bit of patience, because having him get the artificial disc replacement surgery, which he will be getting because Vegas will allow that, which the Sabres didn't. They are going to have to be a little patient. They're estimating that Vegas will probably be ready to come back maybe in March. That's kind of what it seems like they're looking at for a return for him. But I just think with the team they have, that team's going to be insane. Once everyone gets back healthy, oh my God. I swear to God, every time Vegas does anything, they make all these moves, I'm like, with what cap space? How do you always have enough cap space to make these things work? Now, in terms of the Sabres perspective, it's okay. I'd give it probably a B. Given the circumstances with, the injury situation, with this dragging out so long, every team kind of being pretty much close to the salary cap right now, and Jack having a $10 million cap number, I think really this is the best that they probably would have ever gotten, and overall it's not bad. First of all, I love Alex Tuch. I'm a huge Alex Tuch fan. He's always kind of been one of those guys that when I watch him on Vegas, be like, oh, I like him, I wish we had him. So to finally have him now, pretty cool. And I love his contract situation too. He's got $4.75 million for the next 5 years. That's really not a bad number at all. He's only 25, so I mean, he's still youngish, right? Like, I'm a huge Alex Tuch fan, and being from Syracuse, he grew up a big Sabres fan. He said he actually lived near Tim Connolly. He said he really enjoyed playing against Ryan Miller for the first time. So now he gets to come home, be a Sabre, and so yeah, I mean, I'm glad he's a part of that deal. Every time I heard Vegas' name come up, I always hoped that Tuch would be a part of it because he was probably one of my favorite players on Vegas, and coming back, I don't know, I think that's a really good part of it. So then they get Peyton Krebs, which I think I love, but I think it was very important that they got him. Like, I'm sure Vegas probably didn't want to give him up, but I think if you were making a deal with Vegas, he had to be a part of it. He absolutely had to be a part of it. He's like their top prospect. You have to get a top prospect back for Jack Eichel. But I'm really excited about Krebs. The report is that he's going to start in Rochester, which at first I was like, what? He was just playing for Vegas and he can't play for the Sabres? What are you talking about? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was a little bummed because I wanted to see him come and play right away, but it makes a lot of sense. Rochester is looking really good right now. You got JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn, who are just on fire in Rochester. So to add Peyton Krebs to that, like, I might have to just go and make a road trip to Rochester. So add Peyton Krebs to the growing list of young, exciting prospects to look forward to. Then you get a 2022 first-round pick. If that pick ends up outside of the top 10, then it'll be ours this year. If not, sticking with Vegas. Which I was a little like, come on. Like, you're already getting a Jack Eichel on a discount. You can't make it, like, I would understand if it was like a lottery protected thing, but top 10, rude. But whatever, I get it, it is what it is. So that would give the Sabres 3 first-round picks this year, and then another 2023 second, which would give us 3 in that year too. And then of course we add in a third because, you know, that was super necessary. So overall, like I said, it's like, it's not like amazing, right? Like there was a rumor last night that I didn't even believe for a second, but there was a rumor last night that there was this like deal with the Flames that included like Matthew Tkachuk, you know, a former first-round pick, a future first-round pick, like all this stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not even believable. But something like that would have like blown my socks off. This isn't blowing my socks off, but I'm not upset with it either. You know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of where we're at. I will say, if there's one thing that's kind of bothering me about this deal, is that the Sabres didn't really take back more salary. Like, I was under the impression the entire time that the only way this deal would have been able to work is if it would kind of be like money in, money out kind of thing. Obviously, again, Jack Eichel is on LTIR right now, but eventually he is going to have to come off, and there's a lot of guys on Vegas on LTIR right now. They got Ike Stone and Pacioretty on LTIR right now, so they're going to have to do some stuff. So immediately when the deal first happened, I was so confused because I was like, well, how is that going to work for Vegas? How is it that, you know, we're basically gaining like, once everyone comes off of IR, basically like, what, like $5 million in cap space from the deal? Like, there was always a talk of like potentially retaining salary, which I was never on board with. I have no problem taking back bad contracts for, you know, maybe a year or two, if absolutely necessary, which I kind of thought it would have to have been necessary in this deal. But retaining salary, I was never into that. If it was written in a way that like you only had to retain salary for maybe a couple years, that'd be different. But when you retain salary and it has to be throughout the entirety of the remainder of the 5 years left on his deal, no, that would have been awful. I'm glad Kevin Adams stuck to his guns. He said in his press conference today that that was like a non-starter if the Sabres had to retain any salary, which is smart and it just makes sense. Because now, like Vegas, I feel like they're going to have to do some work to kind of figure out their cap situation. So I'm wondering, could they have gotten more had they have done more with maybe taking more salary back? I don't know. Like, and I'm wondering why they weren't so willing to do it. Because as it is, the Sabres are kind of like just barely at the cap floor as it is. Like, they have a ton of cap room, like an insane amount of cap room, which is hilarious because literally right as I'm saying that, I'm just looking at my phone, and the Sabres just acquired retired player Johnny Boychuk from the Islanders. So there's the cap floor issue. That's funny. Islanders traded Johnny Boychuk for future considerations. Okay. So nothing? So either way, I don't know. Like, I just wonder if they could have gotten more having taken back a bad contract, but either way, like I said, the return's fine. It is what it is. But as for Jack, trying to reflect on Jack's time in Buffalo and his career is way, way, way too much for just this video, and I'm going to probably make more than one video in the coming days kind of reflecting on his time in Buffalo and all that stuff. But as for Jack, he said something interesting today in an interview with Elliot Friedman. He mentioned that he had went to management after the 2020 season. So after the season that ended because of the start of the pandemic. And apparently he requested a trade after that 2020 season, not after this 2021 season, after the 2020 season. And I feel like that is really important to note. And I find that hilarious. One, because I made a video back around that time where he was probably requesting a trade, saying that, oh, Jack Eichel's not requesting a trade, so just hit me with those L's. But two, I think that kind of shines a little bit more light on this season. I think that says a lot more about the relevance of this injury thing, about this surgery thing, because the whole narrative throughout the whole offseason was that Jack Eichel has requested a trade from the Buffalo Sabres because they would not allow him to get the surgery that he wanted. And I never bought that. My thought was always like, this is probably the last straw for him, but I never believed that it was solely this surgery that was the reason why he wanted to trade. And I always kind of wondered, like, if he didn't have to deal with this neck thing, would he still be a Buffalo Sabre now anyway? And honestly, no, I don't think he would. I think he still would have requested the trade regardless of whether or not he would have gotten the neck injury. And I feel like him saying this to Elliotte Friedman today confirmed that, which is annoying because, like I said, this whole narrative throughout the summer painted the Sabres as these awful human beings. And don't get me wrong, I'm not happy with the situation. It is not a good look for the Sabres to not let them have the surgery that he wanted. But at the same time, I was always saying there has to be more to this. There has to be more to this story. This can't just be how it looks at face value. I mean, it was so obviously clear that Jack wasn't happy here. You could tell based on kind of some of his on-ice play, especially kind of near the end of the season. You could tell in his post-game interviews. You could tell, in the locker room when he's like breaking his sticks on things. Clearly he wasn't happy here. Can't blame him. I mean, I wasn't happy being here. Like right now as I'm reading this, like he's talking to John Buccigross in an ESPN interview, and Bucci asked him, the Sabres initially had said yes to the surgery, would you still be a Sabre today? And Eichel said, I'm not sure about that. So clearly this was not a surgery thing. Clearly this was I'm sick of losing thing. And I think the surgery kind of made it more public. But in the end, this was clearly something that absolutely needed to be done, probably needed to be done way earlier than this. And it's kind of disappointing, probably especially for Jack, that he's been sitting out and waiting this long to get a surgery because he wouldn't get the fusion surgery. Now he'll finally be able to get the disc replacement surgery. But considering that, this has been going on for this long, he probably could be playing by now if they would have been able to make the trade earlier or if they would have allowed the surgery. And as for the Sabres, I think this rebuild is becoming more interesting. I think when you looked at the first attempt at their rebuild with Jack and Sam, they pretty much just went all in on getting Jack Eichel, trading away everybody, and then kind of relied on him as their guy. This time around, with all the prospects they're adding, all the picks that they're adding, it really seems like they're kind of trying to build depth in a huge prospect pool and a lot of internal competition, a lot of internal talent, which I think is a better approach. And who knows, I know that they had a pretty decent start to the season so far. I don't think it's sustainable. While I am appreciative that they're playing harder and they seem to be playing a more enjoyable brand of hockey, I still think that they're probably one of the bottom teams in the league, and I'm sure eventually their record will reflect that. If they want to prove me wrong, that's fine. But, they're not a playoff team, I don't think. So, who knows, maybe you add another top pick into this fold this year, next year maybe even. You're going to have Owen Power coming in next year. I would imagine you're probably going to have Jack Quinn, who is lighting up Rochester, JJ Peterka, light it up. Those two, I would imagine, are probably going to be Sabres next year. Peyton Krebs will probably be a Sabre next year. So their future's looking bright, which is impressive because, even last year I was saying oh, you're going to rebuild? Well, that's amazing that we've been this bad for this long and we have really nothing to show for it. We have no prospects to get excited about. We really have nothing. And now all of a sudden we have a ton of prospects to get excited about. We have a lot to look forward to in the future. So it is nice to see how Kevin Adams has kind of turned things around a little bit on that front, but it does have to translate to the NHL. So we'll see. So yeah, there it is. It's finally over. We waited so long for this and it's finally over. Like I said, I'm probably going to be talking about this a lot more now that it's over, now that we can kind of take a step back and reflect on this failed era. So be on the lookout for that. As always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm sure there are a lot of different sides of this, a lot of different opinions. How do you feel about the return for Buffalo, for Vegas? So make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell notification. I'm going to be putting out a lot of stuff, including maybe a song for Jack. It's been a long time since I've done a Sabres song, but he might just get one. So be on the lookout for that. And I will see you guys soon. Go Bills. Bye, guys.